What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Backstage Kitchen Podcast, the show where food is music to the body and music is food to the heart. I'm Richard Julien, and today's episode is a great one. We're sitting down with the Standstills, that husband and wife rock duo that deals in big hooks, gritty riffs, and the kind of energy that feels like the first bite of something spicy when we weren't quite ready for it. They're Johnny Fox on vocals and guitar, and Renee Fox, his amazing wife, on drums and vocals. And if you haven't spent time on their new album, Shockwave, consider this your official nudge. It's been out for a couple of years, and they put that out right in the aftermath of COVID and did some very successful tours on it. That alone is worth a medal. But before we jump in with them, let's do a quick music news flyby. Just the stuff worth yelling over a good snare hit with a rim shot. All right, here's the music news and the quick hits. First, let's talk about Bush. He announced a 2026 tour date in support of his latest album, I Beat Loneliness. Gavin Rossdale and the boys are loading the van again. Second, let's talk about Five Finger Death Punch. They dropped North American tour dates for 2026, and Polestar says the run will feature material from their upcoming 10th studio album. Tickets go on sale this week, January 16th. And for a heavier note, there's been an outpouring of tributes to Matt Kwaniewski, Kelvin, a co-founder and former guitarist of Black Midi, who has died sadly at 26 after a long struggle with mental health, according to his family. And that's heartbreaking. Go check in on your people. It's a real thing. Mental health takes a lot of good people. Okay, all right, let's talk about the notable rock dates that land around January 15th, birthdays, milestones, and the moments that still echo. So this week in rock, January 10th marks the day David Bowie passed away sadly in 2016, 2 days after releasing Black Star, which landed on his birthday. It still doesn't feel real that that Thin White Duke has passed. January 14th, 1978, the Sex Pistols played their final show at Winterland in San Francisco. History sealed with that infamous cheated moment. Yeah, it's interesting about the Sex Pistols. History has actually shown us they were more of a boy band than I think most punk people would care to admit. Sid Vicious, who obviously went on to infamy with his by murdering his girlfriend, was actually a late addition to the band, and I don't know if any of his bass tracks were on any albums. So it's interesting how maybe one of the most famous people in punk never played a note on any of their stuff. Anyways, January 14th is Dave Grohl's birthday. Born in 1969, Nirvana drummer turned Foo Fighters engine, and basically proof that one human can be an entire rhythm section. Side note, the first Foo Fighters album, every single track on that is played by Dave, all instruments, and of course his very well-known raspy rock vocal. January 14th, Ronnie Van Zant, was born in 1948, the voice of Leonard Skinner, and a legend in Southern rock without question. January 15th is also the birthday of Captain Beefheart. Born in 1941, absolute cult legend, energy of major influence on experimental rock. The freaky stuff, it's great. And of course, lastly, January 15th, 2018, Boris O'Riordan of the Cranberries died. I don't know if I pronounced that right. One of the most instantly recognizable voices in rock, and very sad, she lost her battle. But that is the news and the updates from around. We're going to talk a little bit about my favorite band, and I say that a lot here, don't I? My favorite band. I've got a lot of favorite bands depending on the day. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Anthrax. Anthrax is one of those bands that, man, they're part of the big thrash four. In fact, out of the four, I think they were my favorite because they had this upbeat, perky, this kind of sense of humor. So they're going to be part of our band spotlight coming right up. Alrighty then. Time to fire up the grill and crank the amps, because today's band spotlight is a cornerstone of thrash metal. Anthrax, one of the legendary Big Four alongside Metallica, Megadeth, and Slayer. If thrash metal is a menu, Anthrax is a dish that proves you can be violent, technical, fast, and still have personality. Like a perfectly executed a spicy tandoor chicken sandwich that tells jokes and somehow still punches you in the teeth. The original story starts in Queens, New York in 1981. So Anthrax forms in Queens, New York in 1981, formed by Scott Ian and bassist Danny Leiker, who went on to Nuclear Assault fame, another one of the big thrash bands coming out of New York. The name Anthrax comes from Scott Ian spotting the word in a biology book and thinking that that sounded sufficiently evil enough, because in metal, branding really matters. Early on, the lineup shifts like a band in a rehearsal space with rent due tomorrow. Musicians will get that. But the identity starts to lock in by the mid-'80s, especially once Charlie Benante, their drummer, enters the picture in 1983 and becomes a core creative engine. Interesting story to that, their previous drummer went on to play in a band that was totally opposite of Anthrax. He was the drummer for White Lion originally, and for some reason his name escapes me, but maybe I'll remember by the end of this episode. So, when people think Anthrax, the names that matter the most seem to be Scott Ian, rhythm guitar, founding member, the riff architect, and the voice of the band's attitude. Charlie Benante, drums, key songwriter, precision and groove. In the kitchen, he's the one controlling the heat. He's like the sous chef, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, Frank Bello, bass, longtime low-end backbone, and actually the nephew of the drummer, Charlie Benante. Frank Bello joined the band just before they recorded their second album, Spreading the Disease, and been with them most of the time. He left, I think, for a little while there, and he was playing in a band called Helmet. He needs a break. Everyone needs a little time away, right? Isn't that a Chicago song? So, and Joey Belladonna, vocals and classic era voice, and a huge part of their most iconic run, without question. He was out of the band for quite a while, starting in the early 90s, came back for the Among the Living tour in mid-2000s, and then a few years after that, joined the band permanently again when they started releasing new albums. And who cannot forget Jonathan Donius, a lead guitar in the modern era shred and melody. Jonathan has other projects at his own band as well. Whether he still has that, I'm not sure, because he's been with Anthrax for quite a few years. And he replaced Rob Craigio, who was the producer and guitar player for many years, and on some of their most loved albums in the later section of life, especially in the late Bush era, and then with Joey coming back again with Worship Music, their first album with Joey in many, many years. Now, remember, I've got to throw out some love to Danny Spitz, okay? Danny Spitz was an original member and a huge part, in fact, one of the essential parts of the classic era guitar identity. When people talk about the razor-edged Anthrax sound in the mid to late 80s, a lot of the lead guitar character has Dan's fingerprints all over it. He was always my favorite. I love Dan. And then what's so great about Dan is his solos were almost like a song within a song, and he plucked away and shredded, dutifully on stage. And I just always loved that presence with him. And now here's something interesting too. When Dan left the band after the Sound of White Noise album, in I think it was 92 or 93, he actually got a scholarship at a Swiss watchmaking school, and he went there, and now that's what he does. He makes custom watches that people buy for tens of thousands of dollars, and he's quite in demand. So it's interesting how someone who went from a technically musical background is now doing things with little dials and gears that are no smaller than many different lengths of hair or thicknesses of hair. So hats off to Danny Spitz. You got to give him a shout out, because Anthrax would not be the band they are without that little fella. All right, let's talk about the essential Anthrax run. Anthrax discography is deep, but if we're planting the tasting menu, here are some of the key courses. Fistful of Metal, 1984, the raw debut that helped define early thrash energy. Spreading the Disease, honestly, not everyone's favorite. It's probably my favorite. I love it. It's classic heavy metal and the first steps towards their thrash. Some of the songs on that indicate that. You can see a definite split when they went from classic heavy metal to a more of a chunkier, moshy thrash style. Among the Living, a breakthrough classic. This is the record for a lot of fans, and it kind of solidified my fandom, if you will, with great songs like Indians, Among the Living, thick song. And then funner versions like Cotton Amash and Judge Dredd, I Am the Law, about the classic comic character who basically lives by the law and is the judge, jury, and executioner. The next album, State of Euphoria, was good. It was almost like an unfinished album. It had some great hooks, and even Scott Ian has said if they had taken a little more time to finish that, it could have been another polished platter. And Persistence of Time, probably my second favorite, tied with Spreading the Disease. The band levels up, and it's just an aggressive album, start to finish. If State of Euphoria was their fun, happy, lucky tunes, Persistence of Time was like a total departure from that. A lot of angst, inner anger. If you've read Scott Ian's book, he talks a lot about when he's going through his first divorce around that time, or at least things were starting to break up on that level. And Scott has always been the lyricist. I'm sure he's come up with some riffs, but Charlie Benante does take a bulk of that. The drummer, go figure. Drummers have some pretty good rhythm too. So Persistence of Time, again, absolutely love that. After that album, Joey Belladonna made his departure, and Sound of White Noise came out in 1993. A heavier, more groove-forward area. Think of sort of on the line of Pantera. I know that they definitely loved Dime in the Gang, and they went with that darker tone. And Sound of White Noise is a blistering, amazing John Bush on vocals album. You just can't, you can't escape it. And probably the most notable for the 90s in that era. So, coming to the more modern albums they put out with Joey, who came back in 2011, Worship Music. Honestly, it sounds like an extension of Among the Living and Persistence of Time. It moves in there, honestly, flawlessly, but with updated production. And it was actually produced by Rob Craigio, their guitar player at the time, who went on to play in Volbeat for 10 years. And now I'm not sure what he's doing. He's not in Volbeat, but he's still rocking, he's still jamming. And of course, the last album that was released in 2016, For All Kings. It's just modern Anthrax in full power, tight, mean, and built for big stages. And I've seen them play quite a few of those songs on stage at Heavy Montreal a few years ago, and I'm excited to see them again this year. They're opening up for Maiden. I'll be seeing them in September in Montreal. So why does Anthrax matter? Well, Anthrax didn't just play thrash, they helped shape the culture of it. They're part of the reason thrash didn't become this ultra-serious, no fun allowed genre. Anthrax always had that New York attitude, a little humor, a little chaos, and a willingness to collide metal with other worlds. And they've been a true working band for decades. Lineup changes, genre shifts, industry changes, the whole ride. Through it all, they stayed recognizably Anthrax with punchy riffs, gang vocals, big hooks, and drums that sound like they're dropping a toolbox down a stairway in the best way possible. Right now, Anthrax is very much alive and moving. The current lineup remains Scott Ian, Charlie, Frank, Joey, and Jonathan, and they've been working on their long-awaited new studio album. As of late 2025, they filmed a music video for their first single, and the album is tentatively due out in early 26, so anytime now. In North America, it's available on Megaforce, and in Europe with Nuclear Blast. It is produced again by Jay Rushton, who did their previous album. They're also touring, like I said, in 2020. They have announced dates with Iron Maiden, the Run for the World dates, and Anthrax themselves have some upcoming touring news in Japan as well, where they're very popular. So these guys aren't just a nostalgic act. They're still cranking out great tunes and still sharpening knives. So that's my chat about Anthrax. I got to tell you, honestly, like the perfect Anthrax trait, they've always had that show up, hit hard, and have fun, repeat mindset. Like a kitchen crew that doesn't complain, doesn't overthink, and gets the job done. Unless a table walks in, 15 minutes before close and everything's sparkling clean. So that's the spotlight today on Anthrax. If you're new to them, start with Among the Living and then bounce to Worship Music, Persistence of Time, and For All Kings. Those are perfect albums, every single one of them, and I'll take that to my grave. So coming up next, two fantastic people and musicians, Renee and Johnny Fox, aka the Standstills. They're one of my favorite bands. They're a tight, fearless, and lived-in duo, and they've done the reps. Today we're talking about the origin of the duo, what it's like creating a couple of live energy moments, and where the songs go from idea to weapon. So up next, my good friends, Johnny and Renee Fox of the Standstills. Hey, everyone else want to introduce our guests today. We've got the Standstills. We've got Renee and Johnny Fox. We before we came on live here, we were talking a little bit about the craziness of doing what you love, even if it doesn't make money. And Johnny, you were saying, I'll let you continue. You were talking about getting into music for the big bucks immediately. I think is that what you were saying?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. So we were scraping by and for 3 years, and the big bucks was never really in our peripheral. Is that yeah.
Nailed it.
But yeah, no, we I mean, you time is more important than money, and I think when you spend your time in doing what you love to do, there's nothing more valuable than that. Like if you can pay the bills and you can, you make it an honest to you living, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
means.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think that, you know, on the journey that you're on, it's like, we understand that 100%.
That's
It's like
cool
a
because you gotta
passion.
love yeah, you gotta love what you do. So, yeah, so me getting back into Chef Live, something I thought I wasn't going to do, but I do love it. I missed it. I had a great 6 years, working for the Department of National Defense. I met a lot of really cool people. I got to mentor some military cooks too, which was fun, but now I'm kinda back in the saddle doing what I do, and it's weird. We're just wired. Some people, we're just wired a certain way. We're here with the Standstills. We've got Renee and Johnny, and I would love to talk first. Not everyone knows about the genesis of how you guys met. Could you tell me about, like, it doesn't matter who starts, but how did you meet? And then where did that go from meeting and then forming a band and then obviously winning that fantastic contest that gave you so much exposure? I won't talk about that, but you can. And then sort of the whole genesis of you guys and how it all began, what, about 10, 15 years ago?
Oh, even more.
Yeah, we're going on
More?
18 actually.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. We're talking about
Okay.
like 2 years. We've been together for 20 years. That's wild to me. But
It is.
yeah, we met at Fanshawe College. Actually, Johnny started taking chef training. I met him just
Yes.
after that. Yeah.
Yes. So you
So
were
we
taking
met
chef
in the
training. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
I knew that
He
actually,
actually
but yeah.
introduced me to the wing because like that wing of the college was just the chef training, and like
Yeah.
you just didn't go there if you weren't a
It's
student there.
scary.
But they had their own cafe, and the food was incredible. So I was so glad he introduced me to it.
Yeah. So if you're
You
lucky enough to
smooth
be
talker.
if you're lucky enough to get introduced into that wing and you're part of the club, you get to try the food.
Because of
That's
all the students making epic food, so for student
wow.
pricing. So it was pretty
Right,
awesome.
yeah, it was similar in my school too. It was similar, there was a cafeteria and then there was the gourmet area, right? And that's where all the chefs hung
Yeah.
out, or the wannabe chefs, so that's cool. So you guys met, so you both weren't taking music, when you met. Johnny, you were in culinary and, obviously an amateur musician at that point, and Renee, what were you taking at school?
Sorry, I was in general arts when he was doing chef training, but we actually
Sorry.
met after that when we were both taking music industry arts. So we'd have been already been at the college for a year, but didn't know each other.
Right, okay, sorry, my
So
bad.
we
Okay,
met in the music program.
okay, and that was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
two-year
But
program, was it?
I was
Yeah.
still in with the chef buddies.
Yeah. You were
I still have
he,
I still have my hall pass.
on
Yeah,
paper he
that's
wasn't even enrolled in our program. That was what the
right.
funny thing was. Like first few days of classes, he kept coming and he was never on a list to be there. And like everyone eventually was like, "Oh,
And this is a lesson. You
just
don't
sitting in
actually
on.
have to get accepted into a program.
Just show up."
You just start showing up, they let you into it.
Sounds like a lot of kitchens I know. If you hang out the back door long enough, they'll give you a job,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So then you guys started playing together and, jamming together. What came the first, the romance or the jam sessions?
Same time.
Amazing.
True story.
Mhm.
Isn't that's really
And
cool.
then
So you guys started playing stuff together and was it originally going to be originals or were you thinking cover stuff or you're going to school to write your own music, obviously?
yeah, I mean, at that point, Johnny already had an EP out. His brother worked for a record label and they had their own little studio. So he was able to record this EP really well in this little studio. So
Very cool.
he already had the experience. I didn't. And then they just kind of snowballed, I guess. It was one thing after another. We stuck around in London for a few years, I think, maybe 1 or 2 years after we graduated.
Okay. Cool.
But then at that point, all of the venues in London burned to the ground. So we're like, we should get out of here.
We need a place to play. Yeah, I get it.
And
Okay, so you
Oshawa was the next natural place to go because that's where he's from. And then it's closer to Toronto and obviously a bit much bigger music scene there.
it seems like in the blood. It's, you know, most of the people I know that are in bands have connections to Oshawa or live in Oshawa. Johnny, what is it about Oshawa that just everyone seems to play? It's like the Cape Breton of Ontario, because in Nova Scotia, if you're from Cape Breton, I think it's against the law to not play a fiddle or a guitar.
Yeah, I think at the time I think this city, the municipality put a lot of effort into bringing acts in to Oshawa. So there was a lot of like bigger acts that would play Toronto and they would come into Oshawa and they would pay for these bigger acts. And I think that that really was the seed that was like growing everything else because you got to see bigger bands when you were a lot younger and it was more affordable. And I think
You
that
guys have seen.
in Toronto, like you can definitely go see bands and stuff, but it's super expensive. So I think that it was these bigger bands were being more exposed to people that were younger and wouldn't have the opportunity to see them at a certain age because of the cost of this stuff. And I think that that started to really grow the scene. So I think it started on the municipality level, and from there, then venues open up and it was very popular for these certain venues that were at the time bringing in a lot of younger people and a lot of like teens, everybody who was everybody knew somebody who was in a band. It was like that was just what was happening, and it was the conversation was music. So it was kind of like that's how you meet new people and stuff like, so what bands are you into? And like, that was a huge conversation piece. And that I think is what people in Oshawa kind of revolve themselves around: different bands, different scenes, all that sort of stuff. And that escalated to more and more. And I think that's what made Oshawa really popular.
Well,
And there was places to play because of all this, like that's a huge thing, like venues, and these venues were packed.
and I think even the generation prior, like Oshawa is a blue collar town. Like General
Yes,
Motors plant is massive there. Like we always joke
right.
with our friends in Windsor because they're like little Detroit, right? And we totally relate to that because
Yeah,
that's Oshawa. And so you have that like that blue collar crowd, and the East Coast totally relates to that too. So,
100%.
and
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
it's a different dynamic than Toronto, a hundred
Without
percent.
question. Yeah,
Because
no,
you're
for
also
sure.
getting people that are further away, right?
Yeah.
Mm,
So when you're coming even like more east, heading towards the East Coast, but
right.
so where Toronto would be like a 3 hour drive or something, like now you're cutting it down to 2 hours or an
There's a
hour.
there's a whole cluster of communities along that route, is there not? Like,
Oh
and
yeah.
it
There's no
stretches in
divide.
various directions. Yeah, yeah. Well,
There's
that's
no country
interesting.
divide. Like Oshawa to Whitby, you wouldn't even know you transformed from one to the other. Whereas
Right.
where I grew up with London, London was a town and then it was surrounded by farmland. So you knew
Yeah,
immediately
exactly.
when you were out of London and you were in the next city.
Yes, of
East
course.
Coast is the same, right?
It really is. We've got certain cities that are far apart that are the cities, and then you've got a lot of country and a lot of woods, a lot of evergreens in the way, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So obviously there's a lot of different, venues for different levels of playing and whatnot. So did you do your first gigs in Oshawa, like, really as a band?
London.
Was
Thing.
it
London?
Sorry, our first gigs were in Oshawa. My first gigs were in Oshawa, but our
Right,
first gig
right.
was, sorry.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And you got involved in a big battle of the bands that's quite popular because it's actually spawned bands like Finger 11 and Darkest of Days, and you guys won that hands down, 12 out of 12. Tell me a little bit how you got into that. Was it just you were in the scene, you were like, oh, let's give it a shot, and then each week you were like, holy shit, we're going forward. Was it one of those situations, or you were like, "Ah, we got this."
It was actually a fan that brought it to our attention. We weren't
Okay,
aware of the contest.
okay.
And then we just
Mm.
submitted. And I think the first few rounds is all online and it's a voting thing, which I'm never really crazy about because you can have your aunt vote 1,000 times and it doesn't make sense to me. But anyways,
I get it.
beyond that, when we got to the judging, yes, so I think we were pretty surprised that we kept moving on. We were having technical problems and
No, I wasn't surprised at all. I
You're like, I saw the competition,
it was
forget about it.
yeah.
I think we had strong songs, so I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah,
But
it's like like we never looked at music as a competition. We always wanted to make something that we wanted to make because we love to make it, and it hits on so many notes internally. So something entering the competition like um moving forward and all that stuff was exciting, 100%. And at the time, it was like that's the biggest thing we had ever done. So it was absolutely like sort of like a surreal experience.
yeah, open the
Yeah,
door to radio play, right? Which
yeah. But we
kicked the door open really
but
for us in
Yeah.
that sense.
yeah,
Yes.
I think that the at the time of the reactions we were getting from crowds and that was to me, I knew that we were getting a strong feedback. So I was very confident in that at the time, regardless of like whatever like you can make music in your bedroom and all that stuff. But when you bring it to a stage, it's a different beast. And we spent a lot of time on stages before even going into this competition. Like we had done independent tours and like with all these other bands and stuff like that, like we were working hard. So I knew when we were going into this competition that we were bringing something to the table that was potentially a lot stronger than a lot of the submissions that are going into it because a lot of it it's difficult to get out there and do stuff on your own, and that takes a lot of time and to book tours and do all that stuff. Yeah, and so the hustling in the early day or earlier than that was very on point, and I prided our like I pride in the way that we would hustle and the hard work we would put in to keep
Mm.
learning because it's a hard the learning experience never ends. You keep every show is a learning experience of like, what's working, what's not working, and all that stuff. I imagine the same as you with your like cooking and which dish isn't working,
100%.
which is you're pulling different things, adding more, and all that stuff. And I think that that process never ends. But we were fortunate enough at the time um, to continue through that process and on stages in front of people and really gauge reactions. That made I don't know. I think that that's why I was confident going into the the
And
competition.
that is why.
Healthy
You know,
confidence is
you
not a
never know
bad
if you're
thing.
gonna you never know if you're gonna win, but I think you should. I think there is the level of performance that you need to have confidence to really show that vulnerable side of you, which makes a good which makes for a good show and a good performance.
And on a
No,
related note too, I
yes,
think like having someone close to you that you trust for feedback too is also really important. That's going to be honest to you in both fields, right? Like if somebody ate something you made and they're like, "Oh, it's so good," but they're spitting it out in the background, like that's not helpful to your career at all.
it's not, and I think it's a smart person who knows the difference because I'm working on these tapas boxes that I'm releasing in December 22nd, 23rd. I took 6 of my, not favorite clients, but yeah, I'd say if they're listening, this will be done. Anyways, doesn't matter. We're not live. But anyways, I took 6 customers that I really respected and I gave them a sample size. We did a sampling of it, right? And I got
Yeah.
all the feedback from them and I tried to do the influencer thing and, get them to upload stuff and it's good. I got some great feedback, but not so much from the flavor, but the reheating because it's such a different beast. I can take something and cook it, and if I'm struggling with it, I can fix it. But if you're the home cook and you put it on like the arancinis that I was making,
Mhm.
some ovens were too humid. Arancini will
Oh.
fall apart, right? Because they're moist anyways, right? So I know now when I go into production, I'm gonna have to make them a little tighter, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
I
different element. Yeah, oh my God, how people
Yeah,
cooking and was their oven
I wouldn't have
doubles
thought
it.
that. And back to what you were talking about too, about the live performance. I'm an amateur, a very amateur musician, very. but I have done demos that if you played to someone who wasn't a musician, they go, "Oh, that's pretty good." I mean, you're a pro musician. You can just it's a different vibe. It's like me walking into a restaurant. I can almost feel like the force if they're having a bad night. It's weird. But anyways,
Yeah.
but you
You're in
can
the
make
moment.
yourself sound good. What's that? I'm
You're
like,
in the moment.
Oh, it's the
yeah,
energy. The energy in a
yeah.
restaurant.
It's good. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
the fact that you're
You can
connecting to
too.
that energy,
Yeah.
the fact that you're connecting to that energy is speaks
Mhm.
volumes because you're very aware. That's good.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're sensing the guests, you're sensing
I've always
everything.
been that, yeah. So it's true, the live element. So when I go into someone's home, and that's why I started the show because I realized that most of the people I have in my life are musicians, actors, or chefs. Like they're people who create and do things. So I thought it would be neat to see the parallels between it. And you were saying too, when you're on stage and you learn. You know what? I've had great nights. Like, say I'm doing a tasting menu for 12 people, 5 courses, whatever. If I don't have everything organized, if I don't go in with the right mindset, the food and the prep, a lot of that stuff is ahead of time, but beforehand. But when I go into the actual kitchen, I've got to be on my game too, right? So it's like
Mm.
yourselves. I mean, some of the challenges being on the road, you hit a moose once and still ended up
Yeah.
at the show. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's gotta screw up with your energy while you're doing that. You want to talk a little bit about that now that you've had now that you've had some trauma counseling about the moose, but how did
Yeah.
that go? Tell me about that, 'cause that really ties into being on the road and being ready for anything.
We've had a few close calls, but that was by far the toughest thing we've ever been through. And like it was just a series of events that we even got to the show. Like it was a bus driver that really saved us. Like I can't and it was just this random moment that he happened to be in this tiny Ontario town in the northern community at 1 in the morning. Like it was just so completely random that we got on this bus and then that he even allowed us on with all of our gear and
And
took us
also
to the
that bus
underbelly.
he had was much bigger than the one he usually has. And we just
So a
barely
lot of things
squeezed the
fall
gear
into place.
into it.
Yeah, it was and we had talked that night, like, this we've never missed a show that was in
Yeah,
our
I know.
control,
Yeah.
like, ever.
I've
Like, illness,
Yeah.
nothing. We've
you
never
played
missed
through
a
it all.
show.
We hit the moose. The vehicle was completely totaled. We were still like 8 hours or 9 hours
We were
away.
so far away. Yeah.
And we jump on a bus and we're kind of connecting online as this is happening.
I followed the whole
And
thing.
then
I remember it well.
yeah, and we were like playing the show and I could see like guys in the balconies like doing moose antlers with their hands. Like
Wow.
they
Yeah.
knew what happened and that we
Yeah.
didn't miss the show and all this stuff and it was pretty wild.
But the
That is
energy was
wild.
hard because we hadn't slept. We were riding on a bus all night, and,
Yeah.
like, that had just happened to us, so obviously we weren't sleeping. So we're all wide and we're segregated on the bus, so we can't even talk to each other, and everybody's
Wow.
sleeping on the bus, so it's just like all of a sudden you go from this extreme moment to dead
Yeah.
silence on a bus with a bunch of people.
That's easy.
It was
That's
so
easy.
wild. So you're just, like, sitting in your emotions.
Yeah, you're kinda stewing there, like, really, you've had this traumatic experience, really life-threatening, and you don't have a whole lot of time to think about it afterwards. You're just on survival mode to get to the show, and then boom, now you're on the bus and you're going, and you're left with your mind and your cell phone, and it's like, you come down from that, that's hard, that would be really hard.
I think we just like when something traumatic like that happens, you kind of flip into like you're saying survival mode and the only thing that I think that we knew was get to the show.
Yeah,
Just get
yeah,
there. Get there
totally.
and play. And that was it. And that's where we were at. So all this stuff was happening so spontaneously and all these coincidences got us to to the gig
Wow,
and we
that's incredible.
performed and
But it
How
was
did you
the
feel
last
when you were
show.
done? It was the last show. Really?
It was the
Wow.
last show, yeah.
What tour was that? Who were you playing with? Who was on the
It
lineup
wa
for that? I forget.
It actually wasn't really a tour, it was just a couple dates with Theory of a Dead Man.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, cool.
it's we call them
Like, we went from Ottawa to that show, and that's why we had to
Mm,
drive overnight, and we were just trying to at least
right,
get halfway overnight, and it was raining,
right.
and it's just one thing after another, but
yeah.
yeah,
I
we
know
did
I've
it.
seen
we got through it.
You got her. I bet had a glass of wine after the show was great, and you were probably right to bed. I don't know. Or were you too
Actually,
wired up?
we
I don't
are
know.
we
Oh, we
we
stayed up
partied
late.
all
Fury was like, get on the bus.
So
Like,
we
they couldn't believe it. Like, they were in our corner. Like, we were communicating with their tutor manager all night long
yeah.
because, like,
It
I
was
don't know if we're going to make it. Like, we just hit a moose and I knew they were behind us. So I was like, be careful driving. Like, it's insane up
Yeah,
here.
totally. That's
But
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah,
it
you
was
guys have
it
had
was like
some
a
interesting
celebration
stories.
at the
Yeah,
end
it was like we did it. Yeah, it's got to
because
feel good. You did a marathon.
we started to look back after the show was done, and it was just
Mm,
like we didn't miss the show.
Yeah.
We
no.
performed. We went through a crazy experience, and then we just started like celebrating. We got wasted.
A little bit. I was still panicking on the back end because I was like, okay, wait a minute. How are we getting home?
Like
Like, how are we getting our gear home?
Yeah.
So, like, manager me is in the corner, like, you call airport.
But in my mind, I was like,
So I was like, I'm going to have a drink.
we just cheated death somehow. Like I don't know how we did it because like I was in the front seat when it happened, and I had glass all over me. Like it was a
Wow.
humongous. The vehicle was completely totaled, and it was like the way you like when you hit something like that. I can still replay it in my mind how that happened, and like even the moments before it happened, like it was just like holy shit, this is like there's no dodging this, and this
No,
thing is
it's
humongous. And it was we were rounding a corner, so you couldn't really see it. Like it was on the road already on the opposite lane, heading the other
right.
way, and just
Wow.
walking over the lines as we just see it. And both Brennan was driving.
Oh, it was
Yes.
like it was a ping pong of oh fuck. Oh fuck, oh fuck, getting faster and faster.
It's just like and
My
hit
God.
like
Slow
a
motion
ton of
almost in your mind.
bricks.
Well, the
But
sound guy and I were in the back benches, and
Wow.
both of us were sleeping. We were trying to sleep, but
My
I
God.
woke up to like, oh fuck, and I was like thinking in my mind, okay, something's on the road, and like,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking nothing of it. They're gonna break. We're not gonna hit it. And then like as the
Right.
oh fuck started escalating, I was like,
The
oh,
old fucks went up and up and up.
yeah.
and then
Yeah,
we just like braced ourselves, and then obviously we hit the thing.
every oh fuck meant something. It was like, oh fuck, what is
It
that?
was an intense.
Fuck, that's an enormous moose. Fuck, we're gonna hit this.
Yeah, listen, you know what? Moose are not to be trifled with, without question. We have, in
No.
New Brunswick especially, there's a lot of moose collisions. Not as much in Nova Scotia. We have deer. Deer aren't I mean, it still can hurt you, but moose they're another beast altogether.
Well, they
I have
don't
some
move.
nice pictures of you two with a fake moose in Eastern Passage, actually. Do you remember one of your earlier tours when you stayed at my place? There's this really nice picture. Maybe I'll use it for this episode.
That's
There's a nice
awesome.
picture
That's when we
of
went to the wharf. I
yeah,
remember
we went to
that.
Wharf. Remember we went to Eastern Passage and we had some fish and
Yeah.
chips, and then we went to go see the moose.
Best fish and chips we've
That
ever
was a
had.
friendlier moose, you know, and I'm glad you guys got
Right.
through it. Not to make light of it, I'm not making light of it, but I'd like to think that I
No,
gave you a
we
little
can because
pre-prep.
We-
I
it's
gave
in
you a
the
little
past.
precog.
It's in the past.
To be honest,
I know.
we live in Moose Country now, so
Right? Yeah, you're
I
up north.
see them. So I don't even mind. I've seen one on the side of the road, and then I braked, and it was like slowly crossing the road. You know, my bass player was like, no, 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 because he was the one driving that day.
Brennan would be like, stay away from that. I've had my issues with moose. Okay, well, listen, I wanted to share that story because I follow your socials, and I know that at some point you guys were traveling in, I think, BC or Alberta, and you had to get changed on your tires. I think that was a different tour. I think that was another one. But
That
anyways,
was the
but I'm just
second
saying
worst moment on the road.
that was the
It's
second worst
Days
moment, right?
grace.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was a 3 days grace tour. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
we left. Honestly, we left like 2 days early, and we got
Yeah,
on stage like I think it was like 10 minutes before we were supposed to go on.
Yeah.
Like it was just
Yeah.
it was mental.
There was still frost all over.
Yeah.
We had also not like the chains on the tires. Like we had spent the night in -40 in some random parking lot of some gas station.
Oh, it's Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Cars. And we just filled up with gas, and it was so cold we had to leave the vehicle running to get heat,
Whoa,
or we would have
yes.
we would have froze to
It's
death.
also crazy windy. It was
Yeah.
like 80-kilometer winds.
And
That was the day I
We don't
learned
get-
that -40 Celsius is -40 Fahrenheit. Because
Really?
our manager, I was like, it's -40. And I looked at him like, "Oh, that's also -40 for you," because he's
That's
American.
crazy. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's called damn cold wherever you're at, that's for sure.
Oh
We don't
my
get it that
god,
cold
it's
here.
stupid.
In
Yeah, that was
Halifax, we might get -20, and that's about it, but out west in some of those places, insane.
that was the first night that we got stranded
Oh, yeah, we got
on the
stranded twice.
same drive. The second night,
Nice.
we were going up a summit. Where was that?
I was in BC.
See, we were going up a summit, and this thing was humongous, and there was this flash freeze rain, like, and we actually started to slide down the mountain backwards with a van and a
My
trailer
god.
on.
Yeah, I got to the point where we're
Really?
going up, and I'm like, "Oh my god, we're going backwards, going forwards
We
anymore."
started sliding down backwards, and there was like a cliff to the left of us. The thing is straight, and there's like a huge ditch to the right of us. And we we got to the point where like Renee was out back watching the trailer. I was driving, and I would take my foot off the brake just for a second and try to crank the wheel to slide down
Mm,
a little bit more. And
yep.
when that was happening, the trailer was also jackknifing. So I'd have to take my foot off the brake, stop quick and try to hit the gas to like jerk the trailer back from
To level it
jackknifing
out.
into the
Yeah, yeah.
and
Wow.
We didn't even know they had closed the pass after
Oh,
we passed
you're
it.
kidding.
Yeah, it was already
You guys are
closed.
the
they
last
closed it
ones to
right
go
after we
through.
entered.
Well,
Yeah.
there was a couple more cars after us because they kept slowing down, like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Don't stop." I'm, like, trying to wave, and I'm like, "Don't stop, don't stop, gun it, gun it, like, you gotta get over this hill or you're gonna be where we are right now."
That's insane.
A couple
And then they were
people got stuck, and I was like, "Oh, sorry. Thanks for being
I
such a nice
wonder.
Canadian."
Right? I mean, I mean, that you know what? How many Canadian bands out there would have similar stories? Seriously, like, a lot. I've read,
I imagine it's more than we think because
a
if
lot
you
more,
like,
yeah.
oh my God, it's every winter I'll see, or it'll be this time of year, and every
Mhm.
Canadian band is announcing this tour in the dead of winter across our country, and I don't
Yeah,
understand it. Like, I'm like, I could never do that again. Like,
I know.
summer is the time to go. Like, why are we doing these February tours?
Yeah.
To
Well,
Alberta.
a lot of bands now will just do that summer, festival tour, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's, go from there, right? But, there's this, book out there by, a gentleman by the name of Sean Kelly. I don't know if you know Sean. He's played with Leanne, he's played with Helix. He has a book out there called Metal on Ice: Tales from Canadian Hard Rock and Heavy Metal Heroes, and he talks about, obviously a lot of communities, where do the Rockmans play? Ice, right? In the actual, ice and hockey rinks, but also touches on, traveling that's why no one comes to the Maritimes, 'cause it's just crazy to come here, especially in the winter, or to travel all from coast to coast by vehicle, and you've just in this short period of time have told us more than anyone really needs to know about it, and there's probably 1,000 bands with similar stories. Hopefully not as many that hit Moose, but you know how it is.
Well, I think we've been fortunate every time we go out east, it is kind of summer. At least it's not
That's
winter.
true.
I don't think I've ever
That's
been
true.
out east in the winter. I don't think.
Yeah, it's a different
No,
kind of
we
winter, man. It's
we
not as
we
cold, but
remember
it's
it
very
well.
slushy.
Oh yeah, no, I do remember. Yeah, I do remember that in Halifax 'cause it's very hilly and
Mhm.
like
It is, yeah.
parking, you have to put your emergency brake on and like because it's like a whole
Yeah.
thing. It's very yeah. You get a lot of snow days out there, don't you?
Well, sometimes now with honestly, it's changed a lot over the last few years, but we might get 5 or 6 good storms throughout the year. Now, Cape Breton and Newfoundland, some parts of Cape Breton will have snow in July. I'm not kidding. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, up north, like towards the Chetty Camp and Port Head areas, yeah, they'll have snow. In fact, Newfoundland just got snow a couple days ago. So, and
We had snow on
it's
Halloween. So we're only about an hour
really
and a half north of where we were before, but we're in like
okay.
this crazy vortex where it's just much colder
Right,
here.
right.
Winter comes earlier, sticks around a little longer. We get
I was gonna
the
say
ice storm
spring.
last year.
Right. That was crazy. And spring probably comes a little later. So, from tour woes to pairing up with other guest artists, you guys have done a few things. You've done you did a great cover of No More Mr. Nice Guy by Alice Cooper, which I really loved. And you've also more recently on the last album partnered up with Jesse from Eagles of Death Metal, and I like both versions of Motherload. I really like the video because Jesse comes out in a cape, I think.
Yeah.
Jesse's a character. So for those of you listening who don't know the Eagles of Death Metal, you got to listen to these guys. They're a fun party band, great tunes, off the hook, and Jesse Hughes, who's vocals and guitars, he's a character on his own. And you guys have some kind of cool stories about hanging out with Jesse in L.A. and getting ready for the last album. And could you guys share a little bit about that? Because Renee, you told me about one of the karaoke nights that you guys were all hanging out and partying and having fun with Jesse. Tell me how that all started.
Yeah, well, we have the same manager, so that
Mhm,
was the beginning of it.
mhm.
So when we were in LA, we had been meaning to partner with him for some time because he's such a phenomenal artist and character,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we're such big fans of everything he
yes.
does. And so when it did connect, like I forget why we were in LA, or maybe a showcase or something, and Mark's like, he wants to hang out. Like, here's his address, give him a call. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, of course, he was stoked and he told us where he lived, and we went down to his place. And he was doing this thing. I don't know if anybody followed him online for a while, but he would do live karaoke
All the
consistently,
time. I watch him all the time. He's
almost
great.
every day. Yeah, yeah. Like, it
Yeah,
was a big thing.
yeah.
And
His
then we go to
Instagram
his
feed
place,
always
and
has it.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if is he still doing it? I don't know if he does it much
I
anymore,
haven't
but
seen it lately, but last year or the year before, it was a big thing.
yeah, yeah, that just kinda happened as we were there, but it was more like live, like, he had a drum kit set up, and so everybody's jamming, and people would just consistently show up and then leave, and like, it was like an evolving party,
Wow.
but it was a ton. I fell asleep on his couch, actually. I lost my socks there, and I think he felt
Oh, you
bad.
lost
He sent me home with, like, his socks. I don't remember.
you have a pair of Jesse socks? That's so
I
cool.
was so tired. I was so tired.
Yeah. Listen, I get
I'm
it.
the kind of person if I'm tired, but I feel bad because Johnny is like, he will go until like his eyes will be
He's
half asleep, and like he's like,
he's
no, I'm fine, I'm fine. And I don't want to kill his party, so I'm like, I'll just find it. It's just like,
but you had fun. So Johnny, you got to jam with Jesse that night in a whole slew of other people coming through. Now, did you guys already have that song recorded? Did you guys already do Motherload? And then afterwards kind of go, hey, why don't we see if Jesse wants to do some tracks on it?
Yeah, it was, I don't know, it just kind of it painted a picture of our experience, like a little more obviously artistically, like we went down there and like we flew into Palm Springs so we could go to the desert on our way to LA. And so a lot of our experiences at the time are part of those lyrics and everything else, and it just seemed like the perfect package to bring Jesse into it, and because it made the most sense. It's like you're like if you're making a meal, like for you or for you, it's like your personal experience is or your personal experiences in your life add to that because you're thinking back about how what is this meal representing, is this dish representing from like everything that you're putting into it and how you're seasoning it or whatever, like you're trying to get to the certain point of telling a
Hmm.
story. And
Totally.
that last thing, we're like, what is that? It's like almost there, but what's that last thing? And then it's like Jesse, Jesse is that last ingredient to that song. And so we asked him obviously, and he was thrilled to be a part of it. He's such a professional, like, but such a great human being. So it was so great to work with him. And when he got into that studio and he sang his vocals, it was just like everyone was
oh, so good.
such
We've actually found we've gone back a few times since, I think, and has done some other vocals for people at
yeah,
that same studio. So
That's awesome. Yeah. No, it was really exciting because I had been a fan of the Eagles of Death Metal, and I don't really know the underpainting of who manages who and what have you, but I did know that you guys toured with Queens of the Stone Age, and
it's because like Josh was the drummer with Eagles, and Josh and
yes,
Jesse started the whole project together. But a big reason why we knew Jesse was because of Queens of the Stone Age, and we were being
right,
heavily influenced of Queens of the Stone Age at the time, so that
very
like
cool.
there was a lot of that tied into, our love for
Right.
things, got us find Jesse and sort of that went down that path.
You had mentioned in sort of Motherload and putting that together, and you kind of used the analogy of creating a recipe. Both of you are very good cooks. I've had the opportunity to cook for you, but I can speak with someone and know if they got the chops or not. Well, obviously, Johnny, you went to culinary school, and you do a lot of vegan and vegetarian cooking. Is that still the style of food that you both cook at home now?
Me more so. Johnny
Hmm.
started eating meat again, maybe over a year
Okay.
ago. So he's alone in that venture.
Okay, but
But
you
this is
still share.
our, sorry, go ahead.
No, you still share meals together. You still do a lot of cooking together.
We still
Yeah,
do a
so
lot. Sorry.
we just bought this house. We haven't even been here a year, but it's our first home, like our first house, first purchase of
Congratulations.
a house. Thank you. So it's our first barbecue and our first fire pit. So
Very
we've been
cool.
going a little crazy, and like we have a strange double fire pit system happening outside. Not really sure why they did it, but the first one we wanted to save for like leisurely, and then the second one has peonies growing in it for some reason. But I do want to convert it to a pizza oven.
Yes, cool, cool.
Yes, because it's
Yeah,
got the
outdoor
cement
fire pizzas are
foundation.
great.
Yeah, so but with the fire pit, we got into outdoor grilling this year and doing a lot of vegetables over the fire. And he's been doing fit like we're right on the lake, so he's been grilling fish, and it's been
No
it's been
way, wow.
awesome. Like so to have the barbecue and the fire pit this year all at once, and like it just opened our culinary world.
That's amazing. So, do you guys have a favorite go-to dish that you'll cook, or do you garden? Well, obviously, like Renee, you've gone back to school. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But do you guys have your own little garden? I This year I grew a lot of tomatoes. I was in the mood
Yeah.
for tomatoes, so I've got tomato chow. I've got pickled tomatoes. I've got fresh raw tomato butter. I've got a tomato broth out the wazoo. So I just went all in. What do you guys do for food when you're in and around the homestead?
Say, like for lunches, we do a lot of pasta, or not pasta. Pasta is our go-to for sure, like
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
family meal. And we've been really good at switching it up a lot too.
Mm.
Like we used to just do like a tomato based one, but now we're doing like more pesto, especially this
Yeah.
time of year with all the
Yeah.
preserves of the leftover harvest. But I think we a lot of salads, and then of course with the grilling and stuff, we do a lot of grilled veg and stuff like that. So
We dabble with
Right
today
outside.
was Caribbean night, so I did coconut rice tonight, and then I still have like all my herbs outside are still going strong, even though we've had frost like a billion times already. So do a lot of thyme and my coconut rice. I did like jerk tofu and some collard greens. We mix it up quite a bit. Like I tried to pre-plan because there's so
Mhm,
much great produce around us. Like
mhm.
unfortunately with the frost having hit us, we are rolling off and the farmers markets are done and stuff now. But it is really cool just to have that last bit of harvest. Like, like the abundance at the end of the harvest season, right? Like it's insane. All the squashes and the Brussels sprouts and all that inspires me to cook what's in season. So,
It's my favorite time of year to cook too,
oh
actually.
my God,
I
soup,
love root
soup
vegetables.
season.
Yeah,
We're doing
yeah.
so
In
much
fact,
soups right now. And like
nice.
having
Yeah, it's
these
a good
like
time to
cool
do it.
mason jars so that you can like freeze like perfect proportions of soup for like
Totally.
one bowl of soup is the best because I have like 10 of those of each kind of soup on the go right now. And I can't get enough.
You know what? A good butternut squash soup will cure all that ails you. It really will. It's something about it. It's just, earthy. And if you caramelize it up too and get some of those bitter notes on top of it, it's all the better. So, yeah, for sure. This is my favorite time of year to cook. In
Can I
fact,
get that
in the
recipe?
winter,
Yes.
Get that recipe.
you want the recipe? Yeah, I'll send it to you. Now I got to write it down. Jeez.
We still have to talk about was it the pork chops with the Jack Daniel's cream sauce? I don't know what it was,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it has sage
Had
in
the
it,
Pommery
and it
mustard
was,
in it. Yeah,
my God,
That was
that was one of the best dishes
thanks,
we've
guys.
ever made, and that was your recipe. And I know both of us can't find it
scallops.
anymore, and it breaks my
The scallops.
I see. I see. Oh, that's right. Yeah, when I passed out from the tequila and my wife at the time fed you guys. I don't know why it didn't work. Don't know why it didn't work out, but anyways, that's hilarious.
Well, the rub was
Yeah,
already made, so you did your part.
that's true. I did my part. The
Yeah,
prep was there,
everything
and I
was
thought
prepped. You just had to
So you
heat
just
it
had to
up.
cook it.
I thought I'd be cool and party with the band and do tequila shots. I get home, I'm out, lightweight, done.
I think you
Anyways,
fell asleep in the
that's
hammock too. That was great.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I've done that more than once for sure. Now, so I have a little garden outside, like I was telling you, and I still have my herbs. My mint is still fine. My thyme is still fine. My rosemary is still fine. But, you know, a lot of the other herbs, like my basil died after the first frost. I took it in, though. I took a lot of it in. But I just wanted to ask you while we're wrapping up. Couple of things just about, you know, obviously I'm doing this because I like to compare cooking to music, but you guys both love to cook and you understand the whole this and that, the swing, the, you know, using fresh ingredients and what have you. But I just want to ask this one question. It might lead off to some other ones. When you're writing songs, do you guys write them together in jam, or Johnny, like you've heard of the classic riff tape that James Hetfield has? You know, a lot of people have heard of the James Hetfield riff tapes. And a lot of guitar players have a riff tape and they're riff oriented. Or do you two get together in the studio and go, okay, I got this, I want to jam it out, and then the song develops from there? Or maybe you have multiple ways to write a song. But what are your thoughts on that?
It's evolved over the years, I'd say. We started out definitely together, like writing together. But he is like the principal songwriter. I don't play a melodic instrument, so I don't
Hmm.
understand that stuff. Just
Okay.
I joke with Jeff Burrows from the Tea Party all the time because I think it was him that said I pointed whams, and that always stuck with me.
He's a good cat too, isn't he? He's a nice guy.
Always hilarious. Yeah, he's
Too
a sweetheart.
funny.
But yeah, so he definitely has a billion recordings on his phone and on the computer of riffs and him humming over the riffs, and that's usually how I think how it starts. But
Cool. So
won't speak for him.
do you no, no, that's cool. Good, you know what? It's probably why it works. Seriously.
I
But Johnny, do you write on acoustic or electric?
both. I
Both?
think that like writing songs, I think it's like it's finding the intention of finding something that like as a listener first, like going through like I think like culinary arts, like you gotta taste a million things. Like it's like and music for me, it's like I try to listen to all these different things that make me happy and then try to go down these rabbit holes of these other artists or songwriters that I really love and respect and try to understand more about what they're kind of doing and then have that inspiration to be like, okay, and then just start cooking, you know?
Mm,
And then
mm,
whatever
mm.
that leads to, it's like the more you cook, the more you getting closer to the song or the feel or the thing, you know? And I think that
Totally, yeah.
um
And
that's kind of
inspiration is everywhere.
I think that started because when we were jamming together, that it's time consuming and we were also still trying to pay the bills. And it started to be like, okay, how can we do this more? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to step it up and really like take the time and be like iron things out a little closer because it would take too long for us to like get a song down because we didn't have enough time. Like we were working
Yeah,
jobs,
totally. I get
and
that.
all that stuff
That's a
slowly
good
like taking on
insight, actually. Yeah.
the responsibility of trying to step it up and learn more and
Yeah, we would never write in the studio because the studio,
Okay.
like, you're paying for that time and it's extremely expensive
Money.
and time is money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're going into the
Yeah.
studio, you're extremely rehearsed for what you're about to record because you
yeah.
need to nail it.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I've talked to other musicians and artists too that, you know, that's why they do their demos on the side. They structure the song and arrange it before they get in there because it is so expensive. Johnny, do you have any input on what Renee plays on a song? Like, do you guys, how do you work out the tempo and I guess the pocket, the groove? Is that something that you bring to your, like, I'm genuinely curious about that because my first instrument was drums, and now I play what can only be called a mediocre version of acoustic guitar. But anyways, I'm just wondering about that because that would be your contribution, Renee, because that's your expertise.
Yeah, it's well, Renee's contribution I think is um more than the drums, than always has been.
Of course. Of course. Yes. Yes.
Like her the when we wouldn't have achieved as much as we could as we achieved and being on these massive stages we never would have dreamed of if it wasn't for the management side of Renee. And I think that it's we've had we've always had great people working with us, but it's such a difficult industry and a lot of people that we worked with, and they had to, like they were being spread thin as well. So when that stuff starts to happen, like, you know, to move forward, we got to take on the more responsibilities, and Renee took on a lot of that responsibility. And
I
when it
know.
came to
I know.
when
Yeah.
it came to a lot of this, like the songwriting stuff, I would always have a sort of tempo to a certain degree because
Hmm.
I tried to get it to a certain point to where she would also be like, there's something there. Like and to find that pocket where the when we used to create before, when we were like jamming together and all like and creating something from like a very early stage, it would take so long to develop things. And those things often like sometimes they fizzle out. They don't just they're just not kind of like grabbing us like the way they used to. So I would try to create stuff where it would be grabbing us both and
Mm.
we could
Mm.
develop it further because it's
Yeah.
already further down the line. But the stuff I would put down would be very simplistic. Like it would be like just trying to hit the downbeat where it needs to be,
Hmm.
and
The keyboard
and like
drums,
like
You always
Yeah.
see the
Totally. I
memes
get it.
about the
Yeah.
drummer
like
listening
here's
to the guitar's keyboard
yeah
drums. Like, how am I supposed
Totally.
to
Yeah.
pull
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
off? You have 10
so
fingers, like, doing crazy stuff on keyboards.
yeah
And I feel like I
it's
hear
just
those
True.
person like, I can't do that physically.
feel like but it was just
No one
strictly
can
the
do that.
pocket.
I
We just
like
try to hit
2 drummers in the world can
yeah,
do that.
try to hit a pocket like some sort of early idea, you know. And
No, totally. I
most
get
of
it.
the time, like I think that like some of the greatest stuff is just sort of accidental, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's not
Yeah.
like
I get
it's
it.
there's I've always kind of wondered about artists that are in such a machine in their writing. Like I wonder about them because to me, I've gone through a similar process, but completely lose my inspiration. And that to me is kind of like where it starts to become a job, and that
Right.
was never the
Yeah.
intention,
So we've been kind of fortunate in that our label's been pretty supportive and not doesn't intervene very much in the writing process. Like, they wanna hear things prior, but they're not like, you know, not crazy.
No, I
Like,
get.
they let us do what we do, which was
That's
such
awesome.
a yeah, it was such a grateful thing for us. So they never really put their finger we never felt that pressure to have to put out the next Orleans, I guess you'd say.
No, that's good.
yeah.
It's great to have that support. And Johnny, that was very articulate, and I completely understand about the process, what you were talking about. And of course, Renee, I mean, I've known you guys probably 12 years now, and I know for sure how much Renee has done. You managed the band essentially for the first while. Maybe you still do. I know you did. You were also the booking agent, and probably you were also the merch master too. So I
Mhm.
definitely wouldn't take away from anything that. Being an amateur drummer too, I remember my early days playing and jamming. Me and the bass player would jam, and that's how we would kind of pull it together. But I can see why, as when the money factor comes into a band, that you need to come with fully developed songs. You just can't walk in half-assed and go, we got a couple of hooks, maybe we'll do this and what have you, right? So no, 100%. That really does make a lot of sense, and I think that's why it's worked for you guys. Yeah, and seriously, you guys know me for a while, and you know how much I love your stuff. And as a drummer, or an amateur drummer, I don't profess to be on the same level by all means, Renee, but I do love the progression of your playing. And when I say the pocket, it's the groove. And I'm not saying you didn't have the groove before, but that last album, man, baby, you guys had groove, and I really, really loved it. Like, like I'm gushing, but it's nice that I'm a fan, but you're also friends of mine. But yeah, I wore that fucking album out, man. It was great. And I still do. I
Thanks,
still do
man.
play it. But when it first came out, man, baby, hell, great.
Thanks.
Anyways, that's the end of my fanboying. I want to thank you both for letting me fanboy out. I really, really appreciate it. You taking the time to do this and sitting back and chilling. Well, that's it for this episode. A huge thanks again to Johnny and Renee for hanging out and bringing that energy. If you felt that spark in this conversation, do yourself a favor and go listen to the Standstills right now. Add a couple tracks to your playlist, and if you got a favorite, tag them on YouTube or Instagram and let them know what hit you. Buy some merch and help rock music in Canada. Standstills.com. Honestly, I can't say enough about these people, and they're as cool in person as they are just listening to them. So, hey, if you enjoyed this episode, here's the best way you can help me grow the show. Hit follow on Spotify so you don't miss the next drop. Leave a rating and a quick review. It sounds small, but it really does get my podcast out to a bigger audience. Share this episode with a friend who loves rock stories. Text it, DM it, whatever. It really helps this thing spread. And one more thing, if you've got an artist, a chef, or a music industry person you think you'd like to be on the show and be a killer guest, send me a message on Instagram at Chef Live or at _the backstage _kitchen _podcast. That's a mouthful. I'm always building a list, okay? Listen, next week, good friend of mine, Chef Dan Geltner from Montreal. We talk about the passion of food, regardless of the style and technique, plus his times feeding the masses at Osheaga and other festivals like Heavy Montreal. He's an amazing, accomplished chef. He's worked in Michelin star restaurants. He's from Israel originally, and he's cooked in his home country many times. And he's spent decades and years building kitchens for some of the finest chefs in the world. And now he has his own place to call home called Kif Kif, which really, if it translates, means this or that. So it's like, what's good? Kif Kif. Oh, it's like, it's one or the other. They're both good. It's all good. So, all right, that's it. Thanks for spending your time with me today. I'm Chef Richard Julien, and this has been the Backstage Kitchen Podcast, where the stories hit like a chorus and the flavor stays with you. Until next time, enjoy the week and be happy.